The Kiefer, Oklahoma woman was this one, okay? Thing that we were looking at the other day. And this is a limousine driver who picked up Donald Trump in Fort Worth. And then this limousine driver claimed while he was taking Trump to the airport, he heard Trump talking about Jeffrey and heard Trump talking about, you know, like some nasty shit, abusing a girl. Okay, and then, independent of this, at some point, this limo driver claims he was talking to a woman about Donald Trump and that the woman just went stone cold, like, you know, freak out and was like, wow, Trump had raped me along with Jeffrey Epstein. So Blank advised her to call the police regarding the incident, and she said, I can't. They will kill me. And then on Christmas Day, she contacted him and said, I went to the police. And she told him about the stuff. And he said, you did good. And he did not hear from her again. And 15 days later, she ended up dead, according to this guy. Found with her head blown off in Kiefer, Oklahoma. So this was like, you know, everybody read this and thought, wow, this is made up. This is fake. I mean, it sounds like a fantasy story, okay? It really does. I mean, it sounds pretty fantastical. He happens to hear Trump talk about shit on the way to the airport, and he's talking to some girl about it, and she's like, oh my God, I was involved with that shit, and then she ends up dead. Well, when we looked at Kiefer, Oklahoma, its population is 2,000. So obviously, if there was somebody who got their head blown off in Kiefer, it would be a known entity, okay? There's no way that a girl got her head blown off and it was called a suicide in Kiefer that everybody in that town didn't know about it. And it would be easy as pie to find because that kind of shit just never happens in a town of 2,000 people, okay? Well, they found the girl. New Epstein documents include a claim of an Oklahoma murder. The latest release of Epstein documents include an FBI report about a caller's claim of suspicious death in Kiefer in January 2000. Caller said a woman was found with her head blown off in a small town in northeast Oklahoma days after reporting to police she had had involvement with Epstein and Trump. A 19-year-old student from Kiefer died on January 10th, according to death notices in 2 newspapers. Now, guys, think about this. This person who called in 2020, either they made up a story specifically grabbing some woman from 20 years earlier, or this is real. But so Dusty Rhea Duke is the person that is supposedly this person. She was a student. It looks like here too that public records, if she was like 20 when she died, right? She was somewhere born around 80 or 81. So she was 12 or 13 in 93, 94. This is right around the time that all this shit was going on. All right, so let's look at the limo driver's video. Now, this is supposedly the guy. All right, we'll watch this, homie. Here we go.
This is to Donald John Trump, who was the 45th president of the United States of America. Donald, I know for a fact that you know exactly who I am. Don't even try to play like you don't. You stalked me in May, I'm almost certain it was May, of 1995, and you know you did. You called around the different services that were in the Dallas area until you found the one that I was a chauffeur for. Then you requested me specifically to come pick you up so that you could intimidate me. You even threatened me with your ignorant gold-plated semi-automatic, whatever it was. You did all that because you had raped a little girl around Christmas time of 94, 5 months earlier, who was 14 years old.
Now, obviously, if it's this Dusty Rhea, like she was 14 at that time, like, you know, I mean, it could be. Obviously, if this guy's faking it, it would be all dialed together. He's going to make sure it holds together. But here we go.
Now, when that little girl was 7 years old, her and her two sisters became my daughters by choice. I loved all three of those girls more than life itself. And you stalked me in Dallas, I guess because either she or her mother had threatened you with me. You know, haven't been able to get a straight story out of anybody about it. And you bragged while you were on your cell phone to somebody named Jeffrey, about having raped my daughter by choice. When I pulled that car over on the side of Highway 114, I had unlocked my briefcase and opened the top of it, where my pistol laid. It was loaded with some rounds that would have taken your head completely off of your body. And I came within 2 seconds of grabbing that gun and ending you right there. The only reason that didn't happen was because the spirit of our creators came over me. Said, you can't put your wife through this.
This guy's very serious.
So I dropped that car back in drive. Took you on to the airport. Now, Donald, you better listen real close to this, boy. I forgive you. Doesn't mean I'm not mad at you. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be held accountable for that, and then for having my daughter by choice from the time she was 7 years old, having her murdered on January 10th of 2000, 2 weeks after she called the police about you, finally worked up the courage to call the police about you. On Christmas Day, she called the Tulsa Police Department and reported you having raped her. You know everything I just said is absolutely true, Donald. You know it. Because you did it. I know you did it. The girl's mother knows you did it. You've bought her 5 houses so far that I know of as hush payments. You started paying hush payments to her.
See, that should be verifiable right there. He's saying, so yeah, this is pretty convoluted. Now, guys, listen to me. I want to tell you a little story because so his daughter is the girl Dusty Rhea Duke who got blown away. So I think the story here is he was with a woman and it was the woman's daughter and he adopted her when they were together and then they broke up and then he had an interaction with Donald Trump and then years later he was talking to his daughter, his adopted daughter. He was seeing her again and found out that she had gotten involved with Trump and it set off this thing and he said, you need to go to the cops. She went to the cops. She ended up dead. But now he's saying that Trump bought her mother, his ex-wife, like houses and shit, which they should be looking into this now. Like, we got to look into that information. But what I wanted to say is when you hear this, you think there's no way this is true. But can I tell you a quick story, a quick sidebar of these bizarre things? Okay, so Ted Bundy, you ready? Listen to me. Ted Bundy worked at a suicide hotline, okay? He did. He had a job working as a suicide hotline during the time he was killing women. Okay? Around that time, a woman worked at that suicide hotline with him. Her name was Ann Rule. Okay? She was a single mom struggling to take care of her kids. She knew Ted Bundy. They used to go out and have coffee and shit. They were work friends. Then she left that job and she ended up becoming a true crime writer. And she started writing about the murders of those young girls in Washington. And she ended up discovering that Ted Bundy was the killer. And she had been talking to him as she was writing the book because he was an old friend. So that's how weird life works sometimes. These coincidences, they happen, which is why I don't necessarily dismiss this guy automatically, because this kind of shit happens. I mean, that is about as unlikely as a fucking reality. That's why, you know, I mean, this could very well be. All right, let's see the rest of this.
The only way I forgive you is because I understand what influence does to people while we're in these human bodies we occupy. But other than that, you need to stay away from me, Donald. You and your little henchmen, like the ones that have been following me around for the last 3 or 4 days. And they're, well, I know what kind of vehicle they're in. You need to stop it. Because as you already know, I don't get intimidated. The amount of hell I went through growing up, you ain't nothing. You really aren't. You ain't nothing, boy.
Dude.
The one you need to make peace with, if it's possible, which I don't know if it is or not, it's above my pay grade, are our creators. You know who I'm talking about. I know you do. Because I know who you really are. That's all I got to say to you, punk.
All right. So, I mean, obviously there's two things I take from that video, guys. And this is where we stand is A, we got to figure out who this guy is. But I think looking up the girl's mother, now that we know about Dusty Rhea Duke, the girl who died, he made an implication that Trump had been paying off her mother, buying her houses and shit, right? That was his little claim in there, or buying some woman houses. So that definitely needs to get looked into. The Justice Department said some of these documents contain untrue and sensationalist claims made against Trump that were submitted by the FBI right before the election. To be clear, these claims are unfounded and false. If they had a shred of credibility, they certainly would have been weaponized against Trump already. We have to talk about this concept here, where it says this claim that if this was true, it would have already been weaponized. But like, well, okay, if it was true about Bill Clinton, it would have already been weaponized. And like, maybe it wouldn't, you know? I mean, maybe it just got buried, okay? Because at the end of the day, when this report was taken, this report was in October of 2020. Who was president in October of 2020? Whose Justice Department was running the show then? Okay? This shit got logged and this shit got buried. October of 2020 was Trump when these reports were coming in. It was a Trump DOJ. Epstein died while Trump was president. Okay? All of this shit, all of this stuff found the light when Trump was president, guys. All of it. The fallout from Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell, all of this information, all of the information from Julie K. Brown, it all came out when Trump DOJ. And in fact, he got rid of James Comey, guys. He installed his own guy. It all came out when Trump was in there. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.